Hey guys, Shift 838 here. I wanted to show you my latest version of the 838 PEB. This is going to be my production board. Looks like I have the bugs worked out of it. I've been running it for a few days. This is part one. This is just an introduction video to go over the board itself. So let's go ahead and get on with it. So this board form factor is a micro ATX instead of a full-size ATX. It still has the standard 8 expansion slots. Still uses the standard ATX power here. I have reduced the amount of fan connectors from 6 to 4, so you have 2 on each side of the board itself. I have also removed one of the 12 volt taps, so we only have one 12 volt tap up here. You have two 3.3 volts and then two 5 volts. This is a right angle vertical USB type A. This is for pass-through power. So it has traces that just hook up pin 1 to 1, 2 to 2, 3 to 3, 4 to 4. And it goes to this pass-through power port here. So these two ports don't get any ground or power directly from the ATX power supply or this board. For systems you need to run all the time, they need to be engaged and powered up, like the Raspberry Pi. If you're using a Raspberry Pi 4 that requires higher than a 2 amp, you can do this by getting an adapter, plugging it in here, then plugging the adapter into the wall. And then you can actually use another cable, and I believe they use USB-C for the Raspberry Pi 4. You can plug into here directly to the Raspberry Pi 4, and it will power it up. It will keep it engaged all the time, even when your 838 PEB is not powered up. Now, for Raspberry Pis that are earlier than the Pi 4, like the 3B, 3B Plus, Pi 2, the 0W, things like that, you can actually use this here, which is how I'm using it with my 0W. This is a 5 volt standby. So this is actually engaged from the ATX power supply all the time, even when the PEB is turned off. So it will keep your Raspberry Pi for your Tippy engaged all the time and powered up. So the other thing is I have also kept the 838 latching relay module in the same location right here. This relay module that mounts here is optional. If you don't want to exchange or change out, replace your actual momentary PC power switch button, because they're all momentary, then you can use this relay module. A standard PC has this relay and circuitry already built into the main board. I had to add this to allow the power supply to be engaged all the time. Whenever you press the button again, it turns off, just like a regular PC power supply. Otherwise, you have to replace that power button with a latching power button, either one exactly like you currently have, but in latching. And you have to take apart your case to do that, of course. Or you can run a latching toggle switch or push button, whatever you want. It's just 2 pins. It's all you need. It just grounds 1 pin is all it does. But that's what this does. And like I said, this will be an optional purchase. And once you do that, then your actual power switch actually hooks up to the actual latching relay module. If you don't use that and you have a latching switch that you've installed or replaced, then that would actually hook up over here. So the middle 2 pins are your power switch. Then the leftmost 2 pins is your LED, for ground, LED negative, LED positive, top. Then your next one is your 5 volt standby at the bottom, on the far right, and then your power OK over here. That's if you decide you want to make your own relay switch, your relay module, and don't want to use mine. That's fine. But I have the breakouts there just in case you need to or want to. Now over here, you will see this blue connector here, which is for USB 3.0, or really what I have it used for is strictly your front USB ports on your PC case. Not just for power, but I also have these mapped into your data minus and data plus for USB 1 and USB 2. Reason I did this is for the micro GoTechs that have been released. I have purchased a couple, I've tested it with it, and it does work. What this allows you to do is the micro GoTechs are so much smaller, and you can pretty much place them anywhere. They don't actually go into a drive bay. They're way too small. They're only a few inches long, maybe an inch and a half, inch and a quarter wide. They're really small. And what this allows you to do is to hook up the data plus, data minus directly to the micro GoTechs. And this will allow you to use the front USB ports for your USB drive for the GoTech. If you decide you don't want to do that and you're using regular GoTechs, then you can still use the front to power up something, because it will provide 5 volts of power. So I'll go over this here in just a second. But what I want to show you is one of the things that I did remove. If you recall seeing the other videos and pictures, there was a DB37 right here that hooked in, that would hook into a IDC40, and then from the IDC40 went over to the actual original 838IO Plus card. That was causing problems for me. Not the Plus card itself, but the actual connector. It was just, there were some issues I could not get by, and every now and then, didn't happen all the time, but every now and then, if I tried to access a physical floppy drive, and this is the only problem I had. If I tried to access a physical floppy drive, it had a problem. Every now and then, it would error out. It would, time out and give me an error. I could reset the system and it worked fine. But I couldn't get past it. So I decided to remove it. And what I decided to do was, since most everyone has purchased an 838IO Plus card from me, and they've purchased a 5-foot cable, majority everyone purchased 5-foot. I think I sold just a couple of 4-foots, and there might have been like one 3-footer that I sold. But everyone else purchased 5-footers. So what that allowed me to do is, I wanted to run the actual cable through the outside port space of where the PC I/O ports would be, like the keyboard and mouse and USB, things like that, since I'm not using that. So I'm able to run it through there and then plug it directly in to the actual 838IO Plus card. But I've done something different. So for the mid-tower case that I have with the current 838IO Plus card that plugs into the PEB, my power supply was actually in the way. And I looked at a couple of other mid-tower cases, and even if the power supply was mounted at the bottom of the unit, the top of the actual PC case was still in the way. I could not plug it in without it really bending, and I didn't like that. So I kind of redesigned the card for an ATX. So I made a little smaller card, and it's really shorter. So let me show you that, which is this. So in the original card, it actually has a little bit more of a leg coming out, another 2.5 inches probably, and comes down. And that's where this DB37 would be. And that would allow it to hang out over the PEB cage of an original TI PEB. Works just great. But it was too long for this case. So I shortened it. I pretty much cut it straight down and then moved the connector over. Everything else is the same, functions the same, has the same exact components in the same exact places, with the exception of the DB37. So with that said, this now allows me to plug this in, which I'll show that off in the actual demo, part 2. And it allows me to snake that cable in and plug it directly in with no problem. So that's this. Now, if you're using a mid-tower case, or you want to order this and you haven't ordered the 838IO Plus, this unit is designed for the 838IO Plus. It's not designed to use an actual TI Flex cable interface. Not saying it can't be done if you don't have a big enough case, but I did not design it, did not take that in consideration because I did not want to. It uses this card. So the options you would have if you already own the current 838IO Plus card is to select the TI option. If you select the TI option, then there'll be an extra charge for this piece of the card. And this is just for like TI option 1 or PEB card only, kind of like that. The TI option 2 would be the full kit and caboodle of card for the ATX version right here that you're seeing on the screen. The side port piece card that goes with it. Then, of course, you'll be able to add a 3D case in the cable that you choose. You know, the length. For this one, I would recommend no less than a 4 foot. I've actually tested with a 5-footer. Just because snake it in there, you're losing 6 inches right there, 6-8 inches. So that's what I do. But that'll be options for the pre-buy. So the next thing I want to show is for our Geneve users. So our Geneve users, this board mounts on some standoffs if you go with the Geneve option. That allows you to break out your video and audio and your keyboard. Just use some small pigtails. Get you some, you know, you get you a 1 foot, 2 foot, you know, MIDI cable. It's just a 5-pin. Would plug directly from the Geneve into this. Then you can plug your keyboard directly in this. All this back here will actually stick out flush right next to the RJ45 network jacks. This way you can access them fairly easily. You got your audio here, plug in some external speakers. Your video audio also comes out of here. Your actual 8-pin Geneve cable plugs in here. It ports over through here. This also pin 1-to-1. So, you know, 1-to-1, 2-to-2, 3-to-3, etc. But it also goes this way. So pins 1 through 8. So pin 1-to-1, 2-to-2, 3-to-3, etc. goes this way. This is in case you have a GBS VGA unit of mine that adapts the Geneve video RGB through a GBS 8200 directly over to VGA. You can use that for here. That's what it does. It also has the 9640 reset. So these grounds are tied together, of course. These two here are tied together for the bottom leg. That's what the BL means. Resistor 62 on the Geneve. You hook your reset switch here. So these two go to ground. You got your reset switch here. Yet this one right here goes to the bottom leg of R62. You have your reset switch. Did you see I had to cut a little section? I missed, completely forgot about a leg that was going to be right here. Luckily, there was no traces in this spot, so I was able to do this. I've already actually modified this and moved some stuff around a little bit, so it has this already pre-cut and looks nicer. So that's the one that's currently available. So, and that's for the Geneve. So the next video, part 2, will actually go through a short demonstration of it, and then I'll be launching the pre-orders on my new store. My new store is actually on my new website hoster, so it's www.shift838.com. Website looks the same, I've just moved it. The store link is updated to go to a new store. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact me through my email form on my website or on Atari Age. Thanks for watching.